has been a mixed bag. The rankings tell one story. She sits around world number 35, flirting with the edges of that elite top 30 bracket she tasted briefly in March when she climbed to a career-high 29. But the form? The form entering the grass season is murky, uncertain, the kind of ambiguity that makes this wildcard announcement feel like a plot twist rather than a formality. And that is precisely what makes this so fascinating to analyze. The Bad Homburg Open is not just any tournament on the WTA calendar. It is a WTA 500 event, played on grass, positioned in the final week before Wimbledon. Its purpose, endorsed and strategically supported by the All England club itself, is to serve as the last fine-tuning opportunity before the sport's most prestigious championship. The field this year is stacked. Iga Swiatek takes the top seed. Alina Svitolina, Mira Andreeva, Karolina Muchova, Linda Noskova, Ekaterina Alexandrova, Naomi Osaka, and that same Iva Jovic who just dismissed Eala in Paris fill out the top 8 seeds. This is not a soft draw. This is a gathering of players who mean serious business heading into the final Grand Slam tune-up on grass. So why does Eala receiving this wild card matter so much? Why did fans react with such intensity? To understand, you need to rewind approximately 14 months to a tennis court in Miami, Florida, where a 19-year-old left-hander with a wild card nobody thought twice about proceeded to dismantle the established order. Miami 2025 was the tournament that changed everything for Alexandra Eala. She entered as a wild card, ranked outside the top 100, a player most casual fans had never heard of unless they followed junior tennis closely or paid attention to the Rafa Nadal Academy's development pipeline. In the third round, she faced Madison Keys, then ranked number 5 in the world. Eala won. The tennis world raised an eyebrow. Interesting, people said. Young player, big stage, nice win. Then in the quarterfinals, she stood across the net from Iga Swiatek, the number 2 seed, a 5-time Grand Slam champion, a player who had dominated women's tennis for stretches that felt almost unreasonable in their completeness. Eala found herself trailing 4-2 in the second set after dropping the first. And then she simply refused to leave. Point by point, she clawed her way back, her left-handed forehand whipping through angles that disrupted Swiatek's rhythm, her movement across the hard court betraying an athletic intelligence that belied her age. She won. She reached the semifinal of a WTA 1000 event as a wildcard, and in doing so became the first player from the Philippines to ever achieve such a result. That Miami run was not a fluke. It was the beginning of a sequence. 3 months later, Eala arrived on grass for the first time in her professional career. She played Nottingham and lost early. She played Wimbledon and lost in the first round. Standard growing pains on a new surface. But at Eastbourne, something clicked. She navigated qualifying, then beat Lucia Bronzetti, then Yelena Ostapenko, a former Roland Garros champion known for her explosive game on any surface, then Diana Yastremska, then Varvara Gracheva. She reached the final. Against Maya Joint of Australia, Eala played a match of extraordinary drama. Championship points came and went for both players. The deciding set tiebreak stretched to 10-8 before Joint finally clinched it. Eala lost that final, but what she gained was far more valuable than a trophy. She gained proof, concrete and undeniable, that she belonged on grass. That her left-handed serve could skid through the low bounce. That her ability to take the ball early and redirect it with disguised angles was, if anything, amplified by a surface that rewards flat, aggressive striking. In September 2025, she won her first professional title at the Guadalajara 125 Open. By the end of the year, she sat at a career-high ranking of 50. The girl from Quezon City, who had started playing tennis at age 4, who moved to Mallorca as a teenager to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy, who won the US Open Girls title in 2022, was no longer a prospect. She was a legitimate top 50 player with scalps over multiple Grand Slam champions and a game that translated across surfaces. Now fast forward to this wild card announcement. Eala at 37 in the world, some would argue she does not strictly need a wild card. Her ranking would likely have secured direct entry or at worst placed her as one of the first alternates. Indeed, reports confirmed she was initially the fourth alternate in the main draw before the wild card was officially granted. But there is a significant difference between entering a tournament through the alternate list, where your preparation timeline is uncertain, and entering with a confirmed main draw spot weeks in advance. A wild card allows planning. It allows a player to structure their grass court preparation, knowing exactly when and where they will compete. For Eala, who is defending significant ranking points from last year's Eastbourne final during this exact stretch of the calendar, the certainty of a main draw spot in Bad Homburg is not merely a nice gesture. It is a strategic asset. The fan reaction has been multifaceted. In the Philippines, where Eala has become a genuine national sporting icon, the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam main draw match in the Open era, which she achieved at the 2025 US Open, the response was euphoric. Social media pages dedicated to Filipino sports erupted with pride. This was their player, recognized by a major European tournament backed by Wimbledon itself, chosen alongside Venus Williams, one of the greatest players in the history of the sport. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. But there was another strand to the reaction. Some tennis observers, particularly those who follow the WTA rankings closely, questioned whether Eala truly needed this wild card. At number 37, with her ranking trajectory and the number of withdrawals that typically occur before any tournament, direct entry seemed probable. Was this wild card an indication that the tour sees Eala as a marketable asset, a player whose story resonates beyond traditional tennis demographics? Almost certainly. Eala brings with her an enormous Filipino fan base, a training background at one of the sport's most recognizable academies, youth, charisma, and a lefty game that produces aesthetically pleasing tennis. Tournament directors do not hand out wild cards in a vacuum. They consider competitive merit, yes, but also the broader picture of what a player brings to their event. None of this diminishes Eala's worthiness to be in the draw. That should be stated clearly. Her 2025 grass court results alone, a WTA final at Eastbourne, victories over Ostapenko and Yastremska on the surface, more than justify her inclusion. Her overall trajectory across 2025 and into 2026, with a career-high ranking of 29 achieved just 2 months ago, makes her precisely the kind of player wildcards are designed for. Someone whose current form and potential upside exceed what their ranking on any given Monday might suggest. What becomes genuinely intriguing is the tactical picture. Eala's game, built on that left-handed serve and her ability to generate sharp angles from both wings, is theoretically well-suited to grass. The left-handed serve, when deployed on a surface where the ball stays low and skids, becomes a considerably more dangerous weapon. Right-handed opponents must contend with serves swinging away from them on the deuce side and jamming into their body on the ad side, all while adjusting to the reduced reaction time that grass demands. Eala showed at Eastbourne that she could construct short, aggressive points on grass, coming forward when the opportunity presented itself and finishing at the net with touch that surprised many who had primarily watched her on hard court. However, her grass court record remains limited. For wins, 3 losses across her career. That Eastbourne run accounts for the vast majority of her experience on the surface. She has never won consecutive grass court matches outside of that single tournament. This year, she has spoken about wanting to build a more comprehensive grass schedule, and her entry list reportedly includes Birmingham, Berlin, and Bad Homburg before Wimbledon. That is a more committed grass court campaign than anything she attempted before, and it suggests her team recognizes that this surface might ultimately be where she achieves her biggest results. The mental dimension is worth exploring here as well. Eala's 2026 season has been characteristically uneven in the way that young players' seasons often are. She reached the 3rd round of Rome, beating Freck convincingly in the opener and upsetting Wang before running into the formidable Rybakina. But then came consecutive losses to Oleinikova in Strasbourg and Jovic in Paris, neither of which were disastrous results, but both of which carry the faint sting of missed opportunity. Arriving at the grass court season with a confirmed wild card in hand removes at least one variable from the mental equation. She does not need to worry about whether she will get into Bad Homburg. She can focus entirely on preparation, on adjusting her movement patterns for the slippery surface, on grooving her slice backhand, which becomes a considerably more effective weapon when the ball stays low after bouncing. There is also the matter of the company she keeps in this wild card announcement. Venus Williams, at 45, with 10 consecutive WTA match losses, is receiving a wild card based almost entirely on her historical stature and drawing power. Eva Liss, ranked 81, gets the hometown nod as a popular German player returning from injury. Eala sits between them, neither a legacy pick nor a home favorite, but rather an active, ascending, top 40 player whose inclusion signals competitive intent. Of the 3 wildcards, Eala is the one most likely to make a deep run. That distinction is not trivial. Looking at the draw, there are fascinating potential matchups lurking. Should the seedings hold, Eala could face any of the top 8 seeds as early as the second round, given the compact 28-player singles draw. A rematch with Swiatek, who she stunned in Miami, would generate enormous attention. A meeting with Jovic, who just beat her in Paris, would carry the narrative weight of immediate revenge. Against Osaka, the stylistic matchup would be captivating, 2 powerful ball strikers with unorthodox qualities, though Osaka's own grass court record has been historically thin. What strikes me most about this entire situation is the speed of the transformation. 18 months ago, Eala receiving a main draw wildcard at any WTA 500 event would have been a generous act of developmental support. Today, she is arguably overqualified for a wildcard, and the announcement reads more like a tournament securing a player they genuinely want in their draw. That shift from developmental prospect to competitive asset represents the essence of what Eala has achieved since that Miami afternoon when she looked across the net at IGA Swiatek and decided she was not there to make up the numbers. The Philippines has never produced a player like this. That statement deserves to sit on its own for a moment. In the entire history of professional tennis, no Filipino player has reached the heights that Eala has now normalized as her baseline. Every tournament she enters, every result she posts, every wild card she receives, extends a trail that had no precedent before her. The weight of that is difficult to fully appreciate from outside the context of Philippine sport. Inside it, Eala is more than a tennis player. She is evidence that a country with no real grass court tradition, no history of producing elite tennis players, no established pathway from local courts to the global tour, can nonetheless produce someone who belongs at the very highest level. Bad Homburg begins on June 21st. By the time the final is played on June 27th, we will know a great deal more about where Eala stands heading into Wimbledon. If she can replicate anything close to what she achieved at Eastbourne 12 months ago, the deep run, the dominant victories over established players, the composure under pressure, then her Wimbledon seeding and draw position will reflect a player who genuinely threatens to make noise at the All England club. If the grass court adjustment proves difficult after weeks of clay, then the wild card will have served its purpose regardless, giving her meaningful matches on the surface before the biggest fortnight of the year. Either way, the narrative is irresistible. A 21-year-old from the Philippines, trained in Mallorca by the academy that bears Rafael Nadal's name, wielding a left-handed game that